Welcome to The Debate. So, picture the end of a long day at the barbershop. The clipper shut off, the cape is unclasped,
Right.
and the physical hair just falls to that linoleum floor. The barber takes a broom, sweeps up the physical debris, and throws it right in the trash.
The shop is clean.
Exactly. The shop is clean. But we are here today to discuss what happens to the invisible debris.
The heavy stuff.
Yeah, the complaints about a failing marriage, the anxiety over a looming layoff, the really deep existential stress that the client just spent like 45 minutes unpacking in the chair.
And right now, that invisible debris doesn't get swept up. I mean, it gets absorbed.
It does. So today, we're examining a fascinating crossroads in male mental health. We're looking at the evolving role of the barbershop and whether the emotional labor happening in that chair requires a radical restructuring.
Because the barber takes all that stress home with them every single night.
Right.
We're looking at a profession with a 3,500-year history. Barbers used to be esteemed medical professionals. They performed minor surgeries, dentistry, things like that.
They had immense cultural prestige.
Exactly. And today that prestige is really eroded. We're looking at experienced professionals who are, well, effectively doing two jobs.
Cutting hair and acting as untrained therapists.
Right. But they are only getting paid for one.
And this dilemma is particularly pressing for experienced barbers who feel this burnout, but they're completely confused about how to fix it without destroying their business.
Yeah, they don't want to alienate their clients.
Exactly. So our discussion today is grounded in the work of Kiné. Now, she has been a licensed barber since 1999, but she went on to become the leading national certified counselor specializing in financial hypnotherapy.
Which is a very unique combination of skills.
It really is. And through her platform, What Keeps You Up at Night, and her self-sync system, she argues that the current model of the barbershop is fundamentally broken.
Because it relies on uncompensated trauma absorption.
Yes, exactly.
And, she is entirely correct. I'll be arguing that barbers are essentially operating as mental health first responders.
Okay.
They are like the paramedics of the mental health world. They're saving lives by absorbing immense stress from a demographic that often refuses traditional therapy.
Right, men who won't go to a clinic.
Exactly. So they absolutely must implement structured systems to charge for their wisdom, elevate their profession's lost prestige, and honestly protect their own well-being.
And I will be taking the opposing stance. I argue that the profound therapeutic value of the barbershop relies precisely on the fact that it is informal.
You think it's just part of the service?
Yeah, I mean, the deeply ingrained "it comes with the haircut" philosophy is the exact mechanism that creates authentic trust. Men rely on that camouflage.
But at what cost to the barber?
Well, attempting to formalize, structure, and monetize this organic emotional connection risks breaking the very magic that makes it work.
But we really have to look at the cost of that magic. What you're describing as this frictionless environment for the client.
Which it is.
Sure, for the client. But it's actually a highly toxic, high-friction environment for the professional standing behind the chair.
I mean, toxic might be a strong word.
Well, barbers are currently operating under a severe deficit. Kiné perfectly describes it as having trust without a business model.
But see, that lack of a clinical business model is the feature, not a bug.
How so?
Think about why men, particularly men who actively avoid traditional clinical therapy, why do they open up in a barber's chair?
Because it's safe.
Because of the disguise. When a man sits down for like a $40 or $80 haircut, on paper, it's just a transactional grooming service.
Right.
The vulnerability is cloaked in masculinity and routine. The camaraderie, the advice, the listening ear. It just feels like a natural byproduct of two people existing in a shared, culturally sacred space.
I hear that, but
Let me just finish this point. The moment you extract a premium for listening, you turn a sanctuary into a rigid business model. You put a price tag on empathy.
you aren't putting a price tag on empathy, though. You are putting a boundary around the barber's psychological safety.
A boundary?
Yes. You brought up the $40 to $80 haircut. Let's break down the mechanics of that transaction.
Okay, let's do it.
The barber is physically altering a man's appearance, which is, deeply tied to the client's identity, their confidence, their self-worth.
Absolutely. A fresh cut changes how you feel.
Right. And that physical touch creates an intense psychological bond. The client dumps their trauma, leaves feeling 50 pounds lighter, and pays $50. But who is carrying the barber's weight?
Well, I completely agree that the emotional toll is real. I just look at the ethics of compensating this labor differently.
How so?
You frame it as an extraction of the barber's energy that demands a premium fee. But isn't the barber essentially playing the same role as the neighborhood bartender?
Hmm.
The unforced, free nature of the ear is exactly what makes the customer open up. If I go to a bar, the drink is $10.
Right.
If the bartender starts charging me an extra $40 because he listened to me complain about my boss, my guard goes up instantly. The therapeutic release happens because it's not on the meter.
I come at it from a different way. That bartender analogy fundamentally misunderstands the mechanism at play here.
Why? It's the same dynamic of informal listening.
Not quite. A bartender is serving a chemical depressant that artificially loosens inhibitions. The relief the patron feels is often chemical.
Fair point.
And frankly, the bartender isn't expected to offer life-altering clarity. A barber, on the other hand, is completely sober, dealing with a completely sober client.
In the middle of the day, usually.
Exactly. Actively guiding them through real-world crises. Kiné Quarters research really highlights the physiological toll this takes.
You mean on the barber's nervous system?
Yes. When a barber absorbs this stress without a mechanism to process it, their sympathetic nervous system stays in a constant fight-or-flight loop.
Which leads to the burnout we see so often in the industry.
Exactly. This is why Quarter introduces the concept of the calm, optimal brain.
Right, I've read about that.
It's a specific neurological state where the professional is grounded, present, and not emotionally hijacked by the client's trauma.
Which is hard to do when you're hearing about divorces all day.
Very hard. To achieve and maintain a calm, optimal brain, barbers need deliberate, trained mechanisms to unplug. They need what she calls personal mastery systems to physically and psychologically wash away the emotional residue between clients.
Wash it away, like washing their hands.
Exactly. If we just tell barbers, hey, keep absorbing the trauma for free because it's a sacred cultural space, we are romanticizing their destruction.
Well, let's dig into the actual logistics of fixing this, because this is where experienced barbers are getting confused.
It is a big shift, yes.
I understand the need for a calm, optimal brain. I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning because, practically speaking, how does a barber casually pivot a standard $50 haircut into a high-ticket mental health service without alienating their existing clientele?
They have to tread carefully for sure.
I mean, if I've been coming to you for 10 years and suddenly you present me with a menu that says, haircut, $50, haircut plus empathy, $150, that shatters the illusion of our friendship.
Well, they wouldn't just charge more for the exact same 30-minute slot. That would absolutely alienate people.
So what changes?
The execution has to be entirely different, and this is where the self-sync model comes in. It transitions the traditional cut into a structured talk plus trim experience.
Okay, explain the mechanics of that. What actually changes in the room?
Everything about the environment shifts to support the psychological work. We're talking about slower, significantly extended appointment times.
Like an hour?
Maybe 90 minutes instead of 30. And it's no longer happening in a bustling shop with 10 chairs where everyone can hear your business.
Right, where the guy next to you is chiming in?
Exactly. It happens in a private or semi-private space. The lighting shifts from harsh, clinical fluorescence to warmer ambient lighting.
Does lighting really make that big of a difference?
Biologically, yes. It signals safety to the brain and lowers cortisol. The music is curated. The barber isn't just passively nodding. They are using guided check-ins.
I see.
You aren't awkwardly charging for empathy. You are providing an elevated, intentional environment that yields two transformations from one chair, mental and physical.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently based on the market data.
What do you mean?
Well, looking at Quarter's market analysis slides, especially the ones detailing the UAE and major U.S. markets, the positioning leans heavily into luxury.
Yes, it is an elevated service.
The UAE slide explicitly mentions a luxury grooming plus elevated conversation experience. This suggests to me that this model works brilliantly for suite barbers or luxury hotel barbershops or high-volume experienced barbers in affluent areas.
It definitely fits there.
You are essentially segmenting the audience. You have the guys who just want a quick fade and some sports talk, and you have the clients willing to pay a premium for a deep, psychological reset in the middle of their chaotic week.
Yes, and that segmentation is what saves the barber's career. They don't have to be everything to everyone.
Right.
But, the monetization doesn't stop at the chair. Quarter outlines a multi-layered ecosystem.
Beyond the haircuts.
Yes. Beyond the premium Talk Plus trim appointments, barbers can introduce memberships for recurring revenue. They can host high-ticket private mental health retreats.
Retreats, wow.
Yeah, and crucially, there is a massive opportunity in digital content.
You mean the integration of digital course platforms like Kajabi to sell her material?
Exactly. Take her Control the Controllable course. Over 6,000 people have completed it.
That's a lot of data to back it up.
Right. A barber doesn't have to spend years creating their own psychological curriculum. They can utilize affiliate links for established resources.
Oh, I see how that works.
If a barber is cutting a client's hair and hears that the client is spiraling over financial stress, the barber can recommend a specific digital resource or financial hypnotherapy module. When the client buys it, the barber gets a referral fee.
I see the economic utility there. It allows a high-volume barber to scale their income without standing on their feet for an extra 10 hours a week.
Which is huge for their physical health.
It is, but I struggle with the human element of that.
Why?
Well, if I'm pouring my heart out about my financial ruin and my barber hands me an affiliate link to a digital course, I just feel monetized.
You think it feels impersonal?
Yeah, it shifts the dynamic from, hey, I care about you as a brother, to, I have a product funnel for your pain.
But the alternative is the barber giving you unqualified, off-the-cuff financial advice that might actually hurt you.
True. Barbers aren't financial advisors.
Right, and they do this all while internally panicking about their own bills. Giving you a link to a resource created by a national certified counselor isn't a funnel.
You don't think so?
No, it's a genuine lifeline. It captures the value of the conversation while providing an actual, clinical solution to the client.
Let's talk about the clinical side, actually, because the risk factors here are monumental.
They are significant, yes.
Barbers are not trained for severe mental illness. We are living in an era of profound mental health crises.
Absolutely.
So what happens when a man sits in the chair? The barber starts asking these deep guided questions, and the conversation suddenly veers past standard workplace stress into clinical depression or trauma or active thoughts of self-harm.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered how this system is literally built around that exact risk?
How so?
This is the most critical part of Kiné Quarter's framework, and it's why her background as a licensed clinical counselor is so important.
Because she understands the liability.
Exactly. The system explicitly handles these legal and safety boundaries. She draws a hard, undeniable line. The Talk Plus Trim experience is not therapy.
It's not.
No, it is not coaching. There is absolutely no diagnosis and no treatment of illness.
But a conversation is fluid. How do you enforce a boundary between wellness and illness in real time when a client is just breaking down in the chair?
By training the barber to become a master question asker and a solutionist.
Break those terms down. What does a solutionist actually do differently than just a good listener?
Well, a regular listener just offers passive validation, right? They say, "Oh man, that's crazy, I'm sorry."
Yeah, standard barbershop talk.
Right. A solutionist is trained to identify the root of the stress and ask structured questions that shift the client's perspective toward what they can control.
Hence, control the controllables.
Exactly. They are trained to operate strictly in the realm of wellness maintenance. Think of the difference between a vitamin and a prescription.
Oh, I like that analogy. Let's explore that.
Well, a doctor or a psychiatrist prescribes medication to treat a diagnosed illness.
Right, which requires years of medical school.
But you don't need a medical degree to recommend a daily vitamin regimen to maintain baseline health or to prevent fatigue.
Right.
The barber is trained to act as the vitamin. They provide the psychological nutrients like perspective, grounding, clarity to keep the client mentally resilient.
And the paramedic analogy you mentioned earlier fits perfectly here too.
Yes, it does.
Because the paramedic in the ambulance isn't performing open heart surgery. They don't cure the underlying disease.
No, they don't have the tools for that.
They administer first aid, stabilize the patient's vitals, and transport them to the hospital.
Exactly. Under the self-sync system, the barber stabilizes the client's immediate panic, and they do this safely because they are equipped with clear disclaimers.
Ah, so the client knows the limits up front.
Yes, the scope of their service is strictly defined. Clients actually sign informed consent agreements before they begin these premium sessions.
Wow, really?
Yes, And most importantly, the barber builds a strong, pre-vetted referral network.
So they know exactly who to call.
Right.
When the conversation crosses the line from needing a vitamin to needing a prescription, when it moves from wellness into clinical illness, the barber knows exactly how to cleanly and safely pass the baton to a licensed therapist.
See, I want to linger on that informed consent agreement for a moment.
Okay.
Because having a client sign a liability waiver before they sit in a barber chair, that is the ultimate paradigm shift.
It is very different from the traditional model.
It completely vaporizes the historical context of the barbershop as an unstructured neighborhood hangout. It officially corporeatizes the emotional bond.
I wouldn't say corporeatizes it, it professionalizes it. Well, I understand the necessity from a legal and liability standpoint. I still fear we lose something deeply human in that paperwork.
What are we losing?
When I sit in the chair, the magic is that my barber is just my barber. He isn't a certified solutionist.
He's just a guy?
Yeah, he's a guy who knows my kids' names, he knows my hairline is receding, and he just has a common-sense perspective on life.
But your barber is carrying your baggage.
Well,
You are paying him for a physical haircut, but you are extracting therapeutic relief. Why are we so comfortable demanding emotional labor from service workers without compensating them for it?
because human connection shouldn't always be transactional.
But the environment already is transactional.
I mean, yes, but
You are paying him. You are in his place of business during his working hours. You just want the therapeutic part of the transaction to remain free so you don't have to feel guilty about it.
that's a bit harsh.
But look at the reality. Experienced barbers are hitting an income ceiling. They are working Tuesday through Saturday, missing their own kids' extracurricular activities.
Standing on their feet until their lower backs give out, I know.
Exactly. Making $40 to $80 a cut. They want to build real wealth. They don't want to leave the industry they love, and they don't have the time to go back to school to get a master's degree in psychology.
Which makes them the perfect candidates for this hybrid approach.
Precisely. We are elevating the profession back to its historical roots. For thousands of years, barbers were a pillar of societal health.
That's true.
Modern culture reduced them to people who just sweep up hair. This structured system reclaims their prestige. It turns the barbershop into a modern mental health space.
A self-care sanctuary.
Yes, where men go to be heard, seen, and guided safely.
A clarity cut that clips away the confusion, as Kiné material phrases it.
It's a great phrase.
It's an undeniable truth that men are massively underserved in the mental health space. The stigma around sitting on a therapist's couch is still a huge barrier for millions of men.
It's a massive barrier.
But they will go to the barbershop every 2 weeks like clockwork.
Which is exactly why the solution has to be built on existing behavior.
Right.
We don't need to force men to form new habits of going to sterile clinic buildings. We need to optimize the environments they already trust.
I see the mechanics of it, I really do. I understand how creating an ecosystem where a high-volume barber can scale their income through digital course referrals while offering an elevated talk plus trim service for premium clients solves the income ceiling.
It's a very elegant solution.
It is. I just worry about the gentrification of male support spaces.
What do you mean by gentrification?
Well, if the only men who get to have these deep, guiding conversations are the ones who can afford a $150 luxury suite appointment, what happens to the kid in the neighborhood shop who just needs an older guy to give him some free advice?
That kid still gets the advice.
Are you sure?
Yes. Implementing this system doesn't mean a barber loses their humanity or their community roots. It means the barber is taught how to safeguard their own mental health so they don't burn out and close up shop entirely.
That's a fair point.
It means they learn how to navigate the cycle of earning, growing, protecting, and enjoying their wealth so they can actually afford to keep the doors of that neighborhood shop open.
I see.
Let's be honest, a financially stressed, emotionally drained barber isn't giving good, grounded advice to that neighborhood kid anyway.
No, they're probably projecting their own stress.
Exactly. A prosperous barber, operating with a calm, optimal brain, is a far better pillar for the community.
Well, to summarize my perspective, I believe the barbershop's enduring magic relies heavily on its organic, non-transactional camaraderie.
The informal nature?
Right. It is one of the last remaining spaces where men can experience vulnerability without the sterile pressure of a clinical environment. While I see the clear economic and psychological appeal of Kiné model for experienced barbers, I maintain that the aggressive monetization of empathy must be handled incredibly delicately.
Delicate is key.
Because if we wrap every human interaction in consent forms, affiliate links, and premium pricing tiers, we risk destroying the very sanctuary we are trying to elevate.
And to summarize my stance, barbers have been performing uncompensated mental health triage for decades.
They really have.
They absorb the stress of their communities, often at the massive expense of their own mental, physical, and financial well-being. Formalizing the talk plus trim experience through structured systems does not destroy the barbershop.
You think it enhances it.
It professionalizes it, it empowers barbers to act as true first responders, providing them with the necessary boundaries to separate wellness from illness, and the business model to finally be compensated for the dual roles they have always played.
Well, we both fundamentally agree that the barbershop is an irreplaceable pillar of male mental health.
Absolutely.
And that the emotional burden placed on barbers is massive and largely ignored by society.
Totally ignored. We just remain in a respectful tension over the execution.
Right.
Whether building a structured, monetized business model around that trust enhances the experience or, overcomplicates an institution that already works for the client, if not for the barber.
Exactly. It challenges us to reconsider the invisible emotional labor happening in all our daily transactions.
It really makes you think.
It does. The next time you sit in that chair and you hear the familiar buzz of the clippers and the cape comes off, take a look at the floor.
The hair is bare.
Right. The barber will sweep up your hair, but ask yourself, who is sweeping up the heavy energy you just left behind?
Something we all need to think about.
Thank you for joining us for this conversation.